Since the PlayStation Showcase with the Marvel Spider-Man 2 gameplay, we got some new bits and pieces regarding the story within Marvel Spider-Man 2. That being said, I have covered three-ish plot leaks that came out before the gameplay reveal that we got at that recent PlayStation Showcase, and as well some information we got at Summer Game Fest via Brian and Tahar. So with that, we're gonna go revisit those plot leaks and see if any of it matches up so far with just everything that we know about Marvel Spider-Man 2 as far as the story and just kind of everything we have in front of us right now. Before we get into today's video, do you enjoy watching Spider-Man content on YouTube? If so, you found the perfect channel to join. For an affordable price of only $2 a month, you can get exclusive access to priority reply to comments, these cool custom badges I made myself, as well as some Spider-Man emojis. But wait, there's more! And lastly, you can get early access to content. If any of that sounds interesting, what are you waiting for? Join today. Thank you for your time. Back to your regularly scheduled content. So we're gonna go in order and break down each plot leak. I'm not gonna put the post in this video on the screen or whatever, so if you want to go and see that, you can go check out my Marvel Spider-Man 2 playlist. So with that, yeah, again, we're gonna go over each plot leak or story leak we've gotten for Marvel Spider-Man 2 in order, break it down and compare it to everything we know now, and as well add some speculation to it, my own personal speculation at least. Everything we know so far about the game is that it features Wraith, Venom, Kraven the Hunter, Norman Osborn, the Lizard, aka Dr. Connors. In the gameplay reveal, Pete has the symbiote and is trying to save Dr. Connors so that he can save Harry, but Kraven is hunting the Lizard, and Pete had to have just recently got the symbiote because Miles has never seen Pete with this costume before. First, let's start off with the very first leak regarding the story. This came from 4chan. I think all of these have come from 4chan, but one of them do actually seem to kind of add up. We'll get to it eventually. This one specifically that we're about to go over though is the one when someone said they got back from playtesting Spider-Man PS5. This was the very first plot leak that came out, where he said it had a story relic from the original Venom story that's never been in a video game before, and he was referring to the Sin Eater. And for anybody who doesn't know, to put it very quickly and simply, the Sin Eater is a Marvel character. He's a villain who is a crooked cop. He wore a green ski mask and wielded a double-barrel shotgun to go on a killing spree. And in the Venom origin story, Eddie Brock in the comics interviewed a fake Sin Eater, which then got published. Then Spider-Man caught the real Sin Eater, causing Eddie Brock to lose his job, and because of that, he hated Spider-Man. That's the most simple version of it. There's a lot more context and stuff to that comic story. With that, this is not accurate because we don't have any mention of the Sin Eater. I mean, maybe it's possible he's in the game, but I don't think he's actually a part of the main story for Venom in this game because of the next plot leak we're about to go over. This next plot leak, again, 4chan, but this person started off the leak by saying a non-spoiler tidbit to verify this later on is that Kraven's name will be Kravinoff, spelled Kravinov instead of Kravinoff. Now, we actually don't know yet still what his last name is spelled like, because I don't think that's necessarily been revealed yet, and that's not something that's very important to people typically. So again, we don't really know what his last name is because that just hasn't been revealed yet. But now here is where we get into spoiler territory. Everything from here on out till the end of the video could be real, but could be fake. So the gloves are off. Spoiler warning, this is your last warning. So this plot leak goes on to say that Pete and Miles are locating a serial killer in the beginning of the game. Pete says Miles should leave it up to Pete because the situation is really delicate. This is pure speculation on my part, and honestly, I think this kind of is confirmed, but in a way, but we'll get to it, and it'll make a lot more sense when the final plot leak we go over that. My speculation is that the serial killer character that they're hunting in the beginning of the game, or trying to take down in the beginning of the game, is Wraith, aka Yuri Watanabe. In the first game, they set up Yuri to be an antagonist in the City That Never Sleeps DLC of Marvel Spider-Man, going from captain of the NYPD who does everything by the book to a cold-blooded killer by the end of the DLC, with her attempting to murder Hammerhead, but as well finally actually murdering one of his henchmen. I think it was one of his henchmen, but yeah, in cold blood. I think this would be a great plot point, and this would be extremely delicate actually, because Pete and Yuri were good friends as far as cop buddies essentially goes. And the thing is that Miles never met Yuri, I don't think at least, and doesn't know what Yuri has been through before becoming Wraith. So Pete wanting to lone wolf solo this actually makes a lot of sense, because this is super personal to Peter. But back to the plot leak. The next part, the symbiote sneaks onto Peter when him and MJ reunite with Harry. There isn't anything from the reveal that suggests this happened, but we'll get back to this later. Norman hires Kraven to go after the symbiote and as well Miles. This makes sense because obviously Norman wants to save Harry and he needs a symbiote for that for whatever reason, so he's gonna hire someone to go do his dirty work for him. As far as Miles though, that would make sense too, because the spider that bit Miles came from Norman's lab inside of his penthouse when MJ sneaked in there. And of course eventually he'll notice that missing spider from his lab and then be like, oh shit, another Spider-Man showed up, what the fuck? Coincidences aren't a thing, never believe in them, so that adds up in my eyes. Then the plot leak says Kraven rejects the contract from Norman due to limitations. Norman gets mad that Kraven, rejects the contract. I could see this happening, but there isn't anything that necessarily suggests this in the gameplay reveal. The only way I can see this being true is because Kraven has a bunch of technology, gunships, drones, and whatever else. Where did he get that tech from? Because I don't know. I mean, like, from my knowledge, he's not really rich and doesn't have those types of resources. I would say likely Norman, but we don't really know for sure right now, but that's what I imagine. Now before we get into this last bit, so far this plot leak is adding up for the most part, and as well it also is similar to the last one that we're about to go over in a couple minutes. With that being said, the final story bit of this leak is that apparently instead of MJ stealth missions, because most people said they did not enjoy them, Insomniac took that criticism and apparently replaced it with sections playable as Eddie Brock, where you walk around New York seeing Spider-Man and his villains do their antics from the perspective of a human or a normal person, I would say. And I know, here you go, typing your fucking angry comment, Eddie was deconfirmed by Brian Intihar, blah blah blah. Okay, we'll see when the game comes out. But let's just say, right, if we get the game and we get introduced to Eddie Brock before we even see the symbiote, or before the symbiote leaves Pete, why would Eddie be in the game if he isn't Venom? That's literally pointless in my opinion. That's like a slap in the face. With that, we will talk a little bit more about Eddie in a bit, because this next plot leak is where things start to get shaky, but as well also make a lot more sense. One thing I also wanted to mention is that the whole thing with Miles never seeing Pete with the symbiote before and assuming that's when he just got it. The thing is, does Wraith happen before or after Lizard? I think maybe Pete takes down Wraith by himself and has the symbiote, and maybe Miles just had not seen Pete since Pete said to lay off Wraith situation, and like they've just been doing their own thing, and then maybe like they team up for the Lizard thing, if that makes sense. So like what I think happens is Pete is like, Miles, stay off this. Miles listens. Somewhere in between that and the point where in the gameplay reveal, Peter gets the symbiote, defeats Wraith, then that gameplay reveal happens. I think that would probably make a lot of sense. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below. But that also would actually explain why Pete is so aggressive in the gameplay reveal. He's had the symbiote for some period of time. It hasn't been a crazy amount of time, I imagine, but he's already had it for a period of time. Again, how long, we really don't know specifically, but seemingly long enough to where it's actually beginning to affect him now. And again, like, that's all my speculation. Who knows? We'll see. So now we move on to the final plot leak, the most recent one, which is like 50-50 in my opinion, but we were only going to go over what's relevant to Brian talking about Venom and as well the gameplay reveal. Everything else, we really don't have anything to like necessarily compare it to, so I won't talk about this entire last plot leak. Also, let me preface this before we get into this last plot leak. Yes, Lizard is not mentioned in this plot leak, I know. So that's like the main takeaway from this plot leak that makes it seem like, okay, Lizard wasn't mentioned, so this could be fake, but maybe consider what I said earlier. I don't know, who knows, we'll see. Another quick theory, what if Kraven is hunting Lizard, obviously because he's not human and because Norman needs Connors to save Harry and Pete does too, but what if Kraven goes rogue on Norman, maybe because he wants to spite Norman? Again, I don't know, just theory, speculation. With that, we will get into why some of this plot leak may actually be real. It starts off with saying that Yuri is the serial killer that Pete and Miles are looking for in the beginning of the game. But with that as well, we know Wraith was confirmed in the Kraven trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2, and Yuri in the comics becomes Wraith. So that's accurate, and my theory likely seems to be right as far as Yuri being the serial killer in the beginning of the game. Of course, we still don't 110% sure know yet if Yuri is that beginning villain, but it's highly likely likely with everything we know so far. As well, apparently Pete essentially tells Miles to leave it to him because how dangerous this situation is due to Pete having personal ties with Wraith/Yuri. Again, this makes sense, similar to the second plot leak we went over. So again, so far this is adding up. Then apparently Peter gets the symbiote from when Harry comes home from Europe, quote unquote, when the symbiote sneaks into MJ's purse and onto Peter later. This kind of adds up with the second plot leak, so again, like that adds up as far as that, but we don't have anything suggesting this, but that would make sense. And real quick, not to be picky, but like this is the second time they've done this whole Osborn thing sneaks onto MJ and it going from her to a Spider-Man. But again, also mainly we don't have anything to corroborate this is true, but again, this would make sense probably on how Pete would get the symbiote. But with that, let's continue. Not long after getting the symbiote, Pete defeats Yuri, ending the first act of the game. The next act, so Act 2. Quick sidebar, I think this is where the lizard would be, somewhere in Act 2, but that's just my speculation. The plot leak goes on to say Osborn hires Kraven to kill Pete and Miles since Osborn wants the symbiote back. And also, you know, the whole thing I mentioned earlier about Miles and the spider from Norman's lab, I think that's involved too. It then says that things don't go well for Kraven, so he uses brutal tactics, going rogue in the process before being defeated. And by that, I think that's short for Kraven broke the contract with Norman, and this adds up to the previous plot leak. And maybe this is where the lizard happens, when Kraven goes rogue, but that's my theory, who knows. After Kraven is defeated, Miles and Pete go to the classic Bell Tower to get rid of the suit, and during this, Kraven escapes. It then goes on to say the suit bonds with Eddie Brock. Eddie is a recurring playable character in the game with MJ-like sections without the stealth and more action, puzzles, and photography stuff instead. Now again, obviously this is a leak from 4chan. It could not be real, but everything pretty much up until mentioning Eddie Brock actually makes a lot of sense. Are we on the same page? I think so, and if not, it is what it is. I don't know. But with that, let's talk about Eddie Brock for a little bit, and you can have your opinion. Whatever you believe in, that's fine. And if it isn't the same as mine, or you don't agree with me, again, that's fine. You can have your own opinion. I'm just giving my perspective on this. Brian Intihard deconfirmed Eddie Brock being Venom, right? Okay. He didn't say he's not in the game though. But why? Why did he deconfirm Eddie Brock being Venom? He was asked who was Venom in Marvel Spider-Man 2, and the guy said, is it Harry or Eddie? He said it's not Eddie, and he did not hesitate to say that. Really quick sidebar, why would he deconfirm one or the other, in this case Eddie Brock? Because at that point it's kind of like he's confirming, oh, it's Harry. But why wouldn't he have just said it's Harry Osborn instead of it's not Eddie? The thing is, they want to surprise us still with who Venom is. They don't want to tell us outright who it is still. Why would they want to surprise us if it's Harry, if they just confirmed it's Harry by deconfirming Eddie? Does that make sense? I think that makes sense. Especially when they've quote unquote hinted Harry will become Venom. That just doesn't add up in my eyes. That doesn't make sense. But, you know, back to the video. With that, this plot leak got taken down not long after it was posted on 4chan. The only record of this plot leak is my video, this video, whoever else did a video on the plot leak when it first came out, and the original article it came from. The original post on 4chan, that shit got taken down so fast. Most people in general thought it would be Eddie or Harry. The way I think of this whole thing is, why wouldn't he just have not said anything at all and maybe said, I'll play the game to find out who Venom is? That would have been the way smarter move. The way I think about this is Insomniac probably knows this plot leak has been put out there. They know this exists out on the internet. So because it got taken down on 4chan, you can go to the article I got the leak from. It has the link to the original plot leak post. The post doesn't exist anymore. It got scrubbed. So what I think happened is they probably found out about that. They scrubbed the post. And then after that, they wanted to publicly deconfirm Eddie as Venom. I think that was to throw everybody off because everything in this plot leak makes sense with everything that we kind of know and have in front of us. The only thing that does not add up so far is why Lizard wasn't included in the plot leak. And of course, Brian deconfirming Eddie. This is my theory, of course. You can agree or disagree, I don't really care. But either way, we have to wait and see when the game comes out to see, you know, what was true, what wasn't, and I sure will be making videos on what was true and what wasn't, so, you know, stay tuned. But people think just because they deconfirmed Eddie that they aren't lying, and I mean, we really don't know, honestly. Venom could still be Eddie, it could be Harry, it could be anybody. Personally, I'm still going with Eddie until the game comes out, and, you know, we'll see. I think it could be Eddie because, you know, they want to surprise us. They wanted to surprise us with Doc Ock, but How do you surprise us with the Sinister Six and Doc Ock being the leader? I don't know how, but they did it. They want to do a similar thing here. They want to surprise us with Venom, but how could they surprise us when we have seen Eddie as Venom before a lot of times? This is the only possible way they could have surprised us. There's no other way they could have surprised us unless they just never revealed Venom and marketed all the other villains and never revealed Venom. That's the only other way they could have surprised us with Eddie Brock as Venom. They've given us so many hints and possibilities as to who Venom could be, and then all of a sudden they deconfirm who it usually is. I don't know, that's just suspicious in my opinion. But with that, we can get back to the rest of the plot leak. Symbiote Spider-Man gets into a fight with Eddie and fucks him up, which makes Eddie hate Peter. But the thing is, they have already had a bad history with each other. That part's low-key out of order. It tells us like what happened previously. Later on, after Eddie becomes Venom, apparently, if that made sense, they should have said it in the order it happened in. But in my Venom Isn't Who You Think It Is video, I focused on the collectible in Marvel Spider-Man featuring a tease to Eddie Brock on Peter's leave card for the Daily Bugle where Eddie wrote, "Great working with you." I essentially said that doesn't give off the vibe that they were childhood best friends. Seems like either they were chill with each other or maybe they didn't have great history and it was more of a like, oh yeah, great working with you, like whatever. Like sarcastic dickhead energy. Maybe like he didn't want to sign the card, but someone approached him and was like, oh yeah, like can you just sign this card for Pete? And he did it even though he didn't really want to. So Pete and Eddie having a bad history, or Eddie and Spider-Man having a bad history already previous to this part of the plot leak would be even better as far as establishing Eddie and Pete's rivalry if he has Venom in the game. I would talk about the rest of this plot leak, but we don't really have anything that I can compare the rest to because we don't know that far yet into the story of what's specifically going on. But if you want to check out that full plot leak, I did a video on it. It's in Spider-Man 2 playlist. So what do you think of the plot leaks we have gotten versus what we know so far regarding the story of Spider-Man 2? Make sure you comment your opinion down below so I can discuss all that with you in the comment section. Thank you for taking time out of your day to click on this video. If you are new to the channel, I cover Spider-Man related scoops, rumors, leaks, confirmations for the games, movies, TV shows, and I try to upload as much as I can. So if any of that interests you, hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 3,000 subscribers. I think we're about to hit 2.5. Thank you for that. If you want more of this type of content, leave a like on the video. Don't forget to check out my latest video on the left if you haven't already. I hope you ever had a good day and that you enjoyed the video. Until next time.